Sam, what would you say to someone who says society is collapsing around us? What would you say to counter that argument? Because I had that question asked to me recently, and my answer was, we're getting there.
Okay, and you want a better answer than that?
I can't believe you rebounded from from that initial comment.
So you agree with me?
Well, look, I mean, I am not. Let me just say this: everyone has an ebb and flow of the way that they perceive how things are going in the world. I am not at the flow part. I am more in the ebb thinking. Now, things can change very quickly, but it would be hard to argue that we're not still on a trajectory where things are going to be more difficult. But I will say this, it is always darkest before the dawn. And that's I'm not the first person to say that. And so so you know it's true. It's also it's probably also true that it's always darkest, before right at that moment when the lights are turned off. So, but take the first one is better. I think, look, there is a lot of things that are breaking down in society. And I think the best answer I can give you is that it's going to present opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call.
Bye.
You sound like a cutie.
Oh, I have to go already?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the thing is society is always, or civilization or whatever, humanity on Earth is always in a state of collapse and rebirth. Where would you put the year? If it's back in Reconstruction and that failing, for instance, it would probably look a lot like civilization.
It would look pretty bleak.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be hard not to walk around even after the Civil War and say things aren't bleak. It would be hard not to go through parts of Europe and say things aren't bleak.
Or the 1930s.
But yeah, I mean, I do think, I do think that we are in for a protracted period of time in American society, and probably others too. I'm not as sensitive to it, obviously, where things are going to get a little bit worse before they get better.
Yeah.
But I honestly, and I've said this before, so it's not, but I really do think that there's a generational thing that has to change. And I think, in terms of good things happening here. And I don't think we're too far off from that, just, from a, actuarial standpoint.
I also think that as Matt said, we're in a, constant flow of collapse and rebirth or whatever you said. But there's also just because we have access to all of this information all of the time, always, via social media, there's a sense of anxiety around it that I think is unique to our era and specifically our generation in terms of how we consume it, that makes things more heightened and may allow us to lose some perspective. That doesn't mean that the suffering that human beings are facing now isn't atrocious. It just means that the way that we're perceiving it is unique and new, and the anxiety it's producing is probably more intense.
I think there's some truth to that, but I also think it also could just mean that there's more people who are aware that we're in a.
I don't think so. I genuinely think there is a unique mental state for our generation and younger that a baseline level of anxiety.
That is solely a function of social media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's true, but it's not. I don't know that it means that the perception is wrong. It just could mean that there are in other words, I'm not
saying it's wrong.
I'm saying that in other times where we have gone through crises like these, there may not have been as many people who are aware of the breadth and the depth of the crises. There's more now, people, because of social media and the internet and whatnot, which I don't know, from the perspective of the individual, I don't know if that's really any consolation.
No, it's not. The point, though, is that baseline level of anxiety may cause people to have less of a perspective about the cyclical dynamic that Matt mentioned.
Yes, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, I mean, I think
it's just like more people are aware. Like, I have a feeling like those individuals who are like, oh, Jesus, we could be headed into World War II or World War I, were like freaking out. And it's just that we have more of those people now because there's more people with that level of insight to world events. Like, if this was happening, if what was going on in Russia and Ukraine right now was happening 50 years ago, let's say, sort of a cable news, you'd have one newscast that you would see a day, and Walter Cronkite would come on and go, you get like a 3-minute clip of like, there's a war, Russia has invaded Ukraine, and here is a 30-second clip of that includes, a black and white footage of, and that's... Yeah,
you look at old, like, British newsreels of, like, the overthrow of Mossadegh or something like that, and how much attention was given to that. So, here's the soccer.
But what are you saying that contradicts what I'm saying?
There were people who were like, oh, shit, this is bad. But there just wasn't that many of them. And so I'm not saying that it changes. Nothing
you're saying is contradicting what I said.
I took what you said is that the number of people who are aware of it was giving them a warped perception of the implications of this. And I'm saying I don't think there's a warped perception of the implications. I just think that there's more people who are aware of the actual implications.
That was what I was at least in part trying to convey.
And maybe that we're just not sort of psychically prepared to how to deal with the implications of that.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
I don't know that anybody is at any time. It's just
that's
more
why,
of us who don't know.
But I think that there's a reason, though, that 30 and younger, because of that increased access, it increases like levels of existential dread and anxiety and depression. I think that's 100% a dynamic.
Yeah. Although, to kind of bring it back to what Chibber said, I think if all those folks were able to have just be focused on starting families a little bit more often and like investing in properties and stuff like that, that they probably would. I think there's some truth that they wouldn't be. And Charlie Kirk is actually. This is why he's saying the government should intervene and like start getting people into housing, because I think there's on the right, they understand some of that stuff, that it's counter-revolutionary actually.
Yeah.
Not just social media, says Sam from Ottawa. Every generation is going to have more and more access to information. They know how bad it's been, where it's gotten, and where it should be. The doomerism today is comparable to Cold War times, and it's just going to get worse as we enter another cold climate war.